Welcome to the Band Director Bootcamp podcast, the go-to place for busy band directors who want practical to build programs while maintaining balance in their lives. This podcast is brought to you by the Empowered Music Educator Academy, where we help directors like you find efficiency, sustainability, and impact in your teaching and leadership. And speaking of impact, our platinum sponsor, Kennelly Keys Music, has been serving musicians with a commitment to quality, reliability, and exceptional service. Whether you need top-tier instruments, expert repairs, or trusted advice, they've got you covered. Now, let's dive in and set the tempo for success.
Welcome to another episode of Band Director Bootcamp, the podcast with productivity and wellness tips for busy band directors. I'm your host, Lesley Moffat, and I'm really grateful to be sharing this platform with you. We know you don't have time to watch lengthy professional development webinars, so we bring you 20-minute tidbits with takeaways you can use to support you in this awesome career. Today's podcast is brought to you by the Empowered Music Educator Academy, where we help directors like you find efficiency, sustainability, and impact in your teaching and leadership. And our platinum sponsor, Kennelly Keys Music, who's been serving music educators and musicians since 1960 with an amazing commitment to music education and music educators. Oh, you guys, it's been a long day. It's almost the end of the school year. I'm tired, so I'm tripping over my words today, but you've heard me do that before. So that's what happens. I have a guest today who I invited today because, first of all, she's got a podcast called The Happy Music Teacher. So if you're a little frustrated or a little down or whatever, stay put. We got some good stuff going for her today. Her name is Jeanette Mihalchik, and she, again, has the Happy Teacher podcast. She's got YouTube channel. She shares strategies to help make music teaching feel easier, some things about self-care, and she's going to talk to us about things we can do in the classroom, outside of the classroom, to make our jobs and our own selves function better. This is an amazing career that we're all in, but it's hard. It's really hard. And I didn't admit that for a very long time in my life. I tried to just do it all, and it was like stupid because it was hard. So I'm really excited to have you here today, Jeanette, to talk to us about some practical and actual things we can do. So thanks for showing up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Lesley. I'm really excited about this conversation.
Well, cool. Well, let's dig in. Let's talk about a little bit about your background, just so folks know a little bit about you. And then, since we're going to talk about being a happy music teacher, there might have been a time you weren't such a happy music teacher. So if you could, talk to us a little bit about that and how you changed that, I'm sure that's going to resonate with folks today.
Sure. So I started teaching what I like to call through the back door. So I was a non-traditional teacher. I was one of those people who was in another career. I was an online television editor. We edited television commercials and trainings. And for a little while, I was a DJ and, all kinds of really fun things. And I was working like 80 hours a week, and I had children, and I decided I had always wanted to be a high school choral director, and I never made it there. I started in elementary, and that's where I stayed because I just loved those little ones. And honestly, I think it was a good thing because at the time that I started teaching, I had literally no classroom management skills. And I think that high school would have eaten me up. I think it would have been a really bad thing. So I remember sitting in my classroom with a group of second graders, 7 years old, and they were, and I am a kindergarten through fifth grade. Usually I have taught pre-K before, pre-K, kindergarten, first grade for a year. There were a couple years where I taught middle school. Don't ever want to go back there. Those kids are crazy.
I can attest to that.
But so I remember sitting in the middle of my classroom, like literally I sat down on the floor and I put my head in my hands and I was like, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this, because I had come in so green. I hadn't even had like classroom observation or any kind of, they just like hired me off the street, basically.
Oh my gosh, I cannot imagine.
Yeah. So, and So I am a lifelong learner. So I made it my business to find out how to manage classrooms. And I made it my business to find out I didn't know how to teach. I didn't know what to teach. I didn't know any of the things. So the first probably 3 years were super, super hard. Like every day I dreaded going to work. And then once I kind of started learning how to teach and what to teach, it still was really hard. I mean, I think band directors, I'm going to legit tell you, have a harder job than elementary teachers. Don't let any of my elementary teachers tell me that, say that. But I really think that that's the case, that, because your situation is so vastly different, but we have similarities in that we are always on. We are always using our voices. We have to put on a song and dance at all times, and we are trying to inspire those kids to do better and be better. And having them practice an instrument is almost as hard, as maybe even harder than having them practice their math problems, because they don't understand that they're building muscle memory, and they don't understand. And it doesn't matter how many ways you tell them that, they don't get it. So I feel like everything about our job is very difficult, don't you think?
Oh. And then the ones that don't get it have to practice more in the class. And so they need more practice time, but don't play while it's a vicious circle. It's hard with those younger kids. I'm learning. Yeah,
because they want to play there. I mean, I have guitar players. I teach guitar after school, and I have guitar players that never stop playing. And I'm like, please, I need you really to just stop for a minute.
Yes, it's constant. So what did this lead you to do then?
So I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of, there were not podcasts when I started. There was not social media. There was not none of the things. There was no smartphone, nothing,
Struggled in the olden days, didn't we?
Yes, it's the olden days. We played CDs, and there was no, no way to like download some music. You couldn't do that. You just had your CDs, and God forbid you weren't prepared when the kids came in, or like I had a random idea and I had to run, go get a CD. Oh my gosh, all heck broke loose, It was like, so I just really, I have a sister who's a teacher, who's a third grade. She's now a fifth grade teacher, but at the time she was a third grade teacher. And I just really started learning how to handle the kids. And I got to a point, I was like 7 years in, and I was like, I still hate my job. I hate going to work. I hate everything about it except for the children. I always enjoyed the children, but all of the logistics and all of the paperwork and all of the, you have to order the t-shirts for the chorus, and you have to run the chorus, and you run the chorus after school when you're not getting paid. And, and that would be okay if there was appreciation, but you and I both know that we are kind of on the lower rungs of the ladder when it comes to schools. And, because they don't view us as quote unquote real teachers. So there was nothing about it that I was really enjoying, except I loved the children. And I was kind of at a point in my life where I was like, I'm not changing careers again. I'm just not. So I like to be happy. So I made it my business to find ways to make teaching feel easier, to make things feel just to be happier in my job.
What does it feel like now?
Now it feels amazing. I really, really, truly say that with all of my heart and soul. I have found ways to make lessons more engaging by observing what my students really drives them. I understand them better because, I've been teaching for 26 years at this point. I understand when, they get that glazed look in their eye. I'm like, oh boy, we gotta change. Like, with elementary, especially like pre-K kindergarten, you change activities every 5 minutes. There's no, okay, we're going to do this for 10 or 15 minutes. No, because they will be off in la la land. I added lots of movement. I added lots of transition time. And I don't know if you have to do that in middle and high school, but I kind of feel like transitions really help, whatever, even if it's like turn to your neighbor and tell them blah, blah, blah about what we just did in rehearsal or something, some aha moment that you got or something like that. So if you have transitions where, let's say you're in rehearsal and maybe you've got, you're rehearsing with the trumpets or the brass section or whatever, and the rest of the band is like just sitting there, right? You could have them like fingering their parts while they're, to keep them busy no matter what you're doing. Because I think that even with big kids, when they're not busy, we know what happens. So, So that was one thing that I did is I really learned how to engage them, how to use transitions, how to use movement, how to use brain breaks. And we can talk lots more about that if you want to.
Need those brain breaks. You sit through professional development and those days you just understand those kids. Sitting all day is hard. Now sit and be quiet. And then, So brain breaks, I'm finding at the middle school level, since they even need them more frequently than at the high school. And something as simple as I'm putting on a timer for 1 minute. Talk to your neighbors, practice something hard, but just even if it's not music related, just to let them do that. And then I'll step on the podium and we can do it again. But I need that. So I'm pretty sure they need that. So give us a couple of strategies you use. And even though you teach younger kids, I'm sure we can adapt and steal some of your ideas. So give us a couple to steal.
So when I see that things are moving in the wrong direction, that they're not really excited about what we're doing or whatever, I'm going to do a pivot. Like that is the first thing always, that or if they're not understanding what I'm doing, I may say to a particularly savvy student, hey, George, would you tell the class what I'm saying, because they're not getting it the way I'm saying it. I'm using my teacher voice, and maybe if you use your kid voice, maybe they'll understand it better. So it could be something like that. If it's like something they're not understanding, it could be that they're getting the wiggles, teaching pre-K, kindergarten, first grade. And to be honest, even like fourth and fifth grade now, they get the wiggles really badly.
They get the wiggles. Let me just say.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, middle school, those kids are crazy. I'm just telling you. All the hormones and all the growing that they're doing and everything, they don't know which end is up, so for sure they need that movement. So if you go on to YouTube and actually I'm going to share at the end a link, because I do lots of, I have an email community and I share some sort of a brain break or a video play along or something every single week. And I think some of those would really be beneficial to your audience. So, just a chance, excuse me, a chance to stand up and stretch, it could be guided stretching, or it could be do your own stretching, or let's all wiggle, or, put on a 2-minute YouTube body percussion or something like that, which not only is going to give them, especially, if you're teaching 6th grade, 7th grade, where they're still learning those rhythms, they're moving them with their feet, or they might be moving them, clapping them with their hands, or, whatever they happen to be doing. And those are really effective because not only are they moving and getting the wiggles out, but they're also practicing their rhythms, or, they're practicing watching, there are students, I'm sure, still in middle school and high school who have trouble tracking, from left to right. So, that's another really good way to, because, you've got the smiley face or the bouncy ball or whatever it happens to be, so that helps them with tracking, and that's going to help them outside of the music classroom too. So that kind of a thing is really good to do. I love what you said about there are times where I'll just be like, okay, turn turn and talk to your neighbor. I always give them something to talk about. We were just talking about meter. Turn and talk to your neighbor about one way that you could feel a meter of 3 or something like that, so it gives them a chance to talk, which especially middle school, high school, they all love to talk, but like the older they get, I feel like they love to talk even more. So, it gives them that chance to talk because let's face it, they're sitting all day, they're listening all day, they are almost not talking except maybe in lunch. And, in high school, middle school, they don't get recess. So, and those children, those kids that misbehave, they're not getting recess in elementary school either, because that's the first thing the classroom teachers take away, which is serious.
That's what the kids need. They need the most. Yeah. Oh, we could change the world. We get this. We understand.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say movement is your friend. Even if you want to, let's say they have a particular rhythm that they're really struggling with, if you have them clap it or sing it or jump it or stomp it or something like that. I know it sounds kind of really, oh my gosh, she's an elementary school teacher, but I feel like even big kids can benefit from that. And it gives them a moment that they're not sitting and they're, instead of, just reading the notes, they're feeling it kinesthetically.
That body, when you experience it in your body like that, it holds on differently. So we all need to do that. Yeah, for sure. Oh, this is good. We could talk for hours, but
we could.
We're not. Yeah, but we're not gonna. And I have a couple more questions for you. But before we do that, I'm going to take a minute to shout out our podcast sponsors, the Empowered Music Educator Academy and Kennelly Keys Music.
As band directors, we know that success is all about preparation, whether it's in the classroom, on the podium, or behind the scenes. That's why the Empowered Music Educator Academy is here to help you master time management, reduce stress, and create sustainable routines that keep both you and your program thriving. And when it comes to ensuring your musicians have access to top quality instruments and services, Kennelly Keys Music is the name to trust. From rentals and repairs to expert advice and outstanding customer service, Kennelly Keys is committed to keeping your program running smoothly. Visit KennellyKeysMusic.com today to explore their offerings and experience the difference of working with a company that truly cares about music education. Now, back to the show.
All right, we are back. Jeanette and I are going to finish up our conversation today with some takeaways for you listeners. So if any of you have experienced the personal burnout, I'm sitting in the parking lot and I don't want to go in the building, oh my God, it can't make me do this. Or I've spent many times in the parking lot crying, just anticipating it or anything like that. What could somebody do to try this week to maybe start their, like, 1 or 2 tips you can give us to start shifting their mindset? You said you determined to be a happy teacher and you just called everything the happy music teacher because that's important. What would you suggest for some other people?
Well, I love that you said mindset because mindset is such a big deal. And I think the first thing that you need to realize is that you are not God and you are not superhuman. And if you are having a down day or a day where your voice isn't quite right, or, you didn't sleep well, or you're not feeling well. And by the way, if you're not feeling well, stay home. There's no reason for you to go to school. They're going to, I know that it's hard to plan for a sub, but the fact is you're not going to be an effective teacher if you're sick. First of all. Second of all, you are spreading your germs to all those students, and then you're going to get everybody else sick. So I am a big believer in take care of yourself first. On the airplane, they always says, put the oxygen mask on the child before you put it on yourself before you put it on the child. I'm getting that wrong. So, you really, really need to take care of you first. If you need a mental health day, take it. That to me counts as a sick day. I am 100%. Going to take my mental health days. If you need a break, like you have just had it, I have had times where I've had to, I had a kid a couple years ago that needled me till I lost my temper. And I did lose my temper with him one time. I started to be like, nah, and I just walked away. I walked right out the door. I stood where I could still see them. But, especially if you're teaching high schoolers, if you need a moment, take a moment. If you need a day, take a day. I know that especially if you're a high school band director, you've got so many things to do with those kids, but you're not going to be effective if you are burnt out and unhappy. Another thing is if you really observe your students, I call it my spidey senses with my elementary school teachers, because we love our cutesy terms. If you use your spidey senses of observation and you really observe what your students are connecting to, and you find ways to make the practicing over and over and over fun, that is a really big deal. There are so many strategies out there, and I do think that you can learn from, some of the elementary teachers who may not be in your world, but they're doing things in a way that is, I feel like our students as a whole are not as mature as they used to be, and I feel like we need to be doing different things. And I will experiment with things. I remember even last year when I was teaching pre-K, and I hadn't taught pre-K in a really long time, and I experimented with each class, I would say my instructions in a different way to see which way they reacted best. So, if you really observe your students, find out what they're connecting to, find out what they really love, and try to bring more of that into your classroom. And really, I had a class one time that nothing I did was working. So one day I stopped and I was like, you know what? I brought out these ginormous canopy scarves, and I said, let's design our own movement. And they looked at me like, really? And I was like, yeah. You guys go ahead and so maybe I know you couldn't do something like that in the band, but maybe you could do I don't know, go off with your friend and just, play your stuff together. I don't know. I you know what I'm saying? Just
Actually, I had a class like that did not respond to anything. They were just I was pulling teeth. But all they wanted to do was go to the bathroom. So we wrote a song called The Bathroom Blues, and they couldn't go to the bathroom until they played 4 measures of it for me. And then they could get the bathroom pad. And then we performed it at a concert. And I told the parents, we wrote this because all your kids want to do is go to the bathroom. But
oh my gosh,
it got them more involved. That. Suddenly they had different sense of buy-in, and it was about them. But
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when you can get them to buy in, that's a big deal. You get them to design their own stuff. You get them to be a part of the teaching. And first of all, it's very effective. You put a kid in front of the classroom and everybody's going to watch them, And second, it's just, it really connects them in a way that it's not going to connect them otherwise. And then if you have them do some of the teaching, we know that teachers learn while they're teaching. So, 100%.
Yeah. Well, cool. This has been just the tip of the iceberg on stuff. Can you tell us, Jeanette, where else can people find your podcast, your anything? What have you got to offer that we can tell them about?
So I have a podcast on pretty much wherever you listen to podcasts. It's called The Happy Music Teacher. It is a picture of me over a bright yellow background. And if you are on YouTube, I just started a YouTube channel about 7 weeks ago. So I am also The Happy Music Teacher on YouTube. They can connect with me through, if they want to be a part of my email community that I call Happy Highlights, they can do that by going to thehappymusicteacher.com/lesson plan sampler. And they'll get 3 lesson plans that they may not be able to use, but they will also get access to my email community and those brain breaks and video play alongs. I share a different one every single week. And while a lot of them are geared towards elementary, I think they would be useful for even just a brain break, that kind of thing.
This is a gold mine. Thank you.
You're
the
welcome.
Stuff you talked about today, but also the fact that there's other things out there that folks that are interested now, there's some resources. So really appreciate your expertise and taking the time to come and talk to our audience today.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to have been here.
Awesome. Well, that's another episode of Band Director Boot Camp. Remember, success in music education is not just about what happens on the podium. It's about taking care of yourself and setting up systems that work for you. The Empowered Music Educator Academy is here to help you do that. So be sure to check out our resources at empowerededucator.com. And of course, a huge thank you and shout out to Kennelly Keys Music as our platinum sponsors for their unwavering support of music educators just like you. Thanks for listening and keep making a difference for kids every day through the magic of music education.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Band Director Boot Camp podcast. Remember, success in music education isn't just about what happens on the podium. It's about taking care of yourself and setting up systems that work for you. The Empowered Music Educator Academy is here to help you do just that. So be sure to check out our resources at empowerededucator.com. And of course, a huge thank you to Kennelly Keys Music, our platinum sponsor, for their unwavering support of music educators like you. Whether you need instruments, accessories, or expert advice, their team is ready to help. Thanks for listening and keep making music happen.